What is up, Ali G Show fam? I am your host, Ali G. Welcome back for another track of the pod. Whether you are out on a run, walk, commuting, or taking a few minutes to yourself, I am really glad you're here, and I do believe you should be here. Quick shout out to Backline Running for supporting this track of the pod. You guys know I only share stuff I genuinely use, and if you've seen me rocking something cool in a training run or at a race, it's most definitely Backline. It's super comfortable, it performs, most importantly, it does not distract from the run, which is huge for me. So I appreciate Backline for coaching me, supporting the pod, showing up for this community. Don't forget to check them out at backline.com and use the code AliG for a special discount. Today's track is a super special one. I am sitting down with my friend Maurice Lowman, also known as Marathon Panda Maurice. We are diving deep into his journey through sobriety, running, building a life rooted in community and purpose, from his first miles to 40 plus marathons and multiple Boston Marathon finishes. His story is one of the most layered, honest, and impactful I've heard in a really long time. So lace up, grab your headphones, and let's get into it. All right, everyone. I am sitting here with the one and only Marathon Panda, Maurice. Maurice, welcome to the pod. I'm so happy you're here. This is the longest time coming, and I have the biggest smile on my face because I can't believe we're doing this, and I'm just so excited. So welcome to the pod.
I'm wicked excited. Thank you so much for having me. Your show is incredible, and it just caught a bunch of momentum. So I'm really appreciative that you had me in mind to jump on.
Of course. Well, before we jump into running, I feel like I know you from, our past podcasts together and on the runs, but can you start by telling the Ali G Show listeners a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Maurice Lowman from East Providence, Rhode Island, also known as the Marathon Panda. An ultra runner, marathon runner, community builder, and I stay super active and vocal in the sobriety and recovery space. And I've embraced the role as your favorite local cheerleader. So I like to talk about my story, but we all have stories. So let's cheer for everybody.
That's right. I love that. Well, I would personally love to hear more about your story because from what I know, it's so powerful and it's so layered, and a lot of people get to see where you're at now, but people don't always understand what it took to get here. So before running was even in your life, can you share a little bit about like who you were back then and how running kind of came to be in your life?
So I love the question. Always appreciate it. And for some reason, running was always my go-to exercise. If I had a bad weekend, if I needed to tap into some self-esteem, if I just kind of needed to like brush the dirt off my shoulders per se, I would turn to, put on some athletic gear and go for a jog or go for a run. And it did really help with self-esteem. It did help for some short-term confidence building, but I was never consistent with it. I knew nothing about running or distance or anything like that. When I got serious about, and we can go back to that part, but when I got serious about my health, my wellness, and the number one thing, my sobriety, running was there as my number one tool in my toolbox to have a healthy habit to hang on to. And it was something that I started with. I can do this for 10 minutes without stopping. I can do this for 20 minutes without stopping. And that was the goal, was to build off of that. And before you know it, I was running for 30 or 40 minutes at a time without stopping. And it was just a big confidence builder. I love the fact that I was setting goals and hitting them. It turned to 90 minutes, turned to 2 hours. And I did have some ups and downs when I first grabbed onto that sobriety train, and I had some relapses, went in and out of a couple of programs, in and out of jail again as an adult. And even when I was in those bad or good places, running was there. So when I got super serious and latched onto sobriety long term, the running became super consistent. And it was like I already had a little bit of a base. So running 40 to 45 miles a week, 55 miles a week might sound kind of odd for a beginner, but I wasn't really a beginner. I had built a little bit of a base. So when I finally got super serious about everything and was working full time and was taking the sobriety serious, I was running every day. If I had an hour and a half to run before work, I ran for an hour and a half. If I had an hour and a half to run after work, I ran for an hour and a half. Once I found out about the running community. Oh, let's back it up a little bit. It's actually a pretty cool
Hmm.
story. So I had this dream of running the Boston Marathon. Okay. My running consisted of like running up and down neighborhood streets, going to this local track in Cranston, Rhode Island, and running around the track for as many times as I could, and then running back to the program that I was in. I was in a men's Christian based drug and alcohol rehabilitation program at the time. And
Hmm.
I had this dream of running the Boston Marathon. When I was in jail at one point, this was 2012 or 13. It was so I actually was locked up when the Boston Marathon bombings happened, and we've watched it on TV, and it just I knew how significant it was because I had already been kind of tracking the Boston Marathon for a couple of years, not knowing about like qualifying times or charity roles, not knowing a lot, but knowing enough. So when I saw that, it just cemented the fact in my brain that I had to show up and run this race someday. And then seeing the city come back in 2014 added fuel to that fire as well. But to stay on track, about to get out of prison. It was a very short term. I used all the tools inside the Bible studies, the workouts, the meetings, and I was really serious about getting a full time job, staying clean, staying sober. And
Hmm.
my partner at the time took the initiative to sign me up for a local half marathon. Now, I had never run a 5K. I had never run an organized race before. I had done youth athletics as a kid, but I wasn't good. I was the kid that they like put in for four plays because his mom was there with him at every practice and they felt bad. But I was not good at sports, football, baseball, basketball. I was not good. But running was something I felt I could be pretty good at because that's, you know what I mean. So,
Of course, of
yeah,
course.
I'm signed up for this half marathon. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have been reading Runner's World, okay? Even in prison, I had met up with another guy. They actually called him Boston because he had run the Boston Marathon in the past and he was there for some white collar stuff and he was like an icon that could run for hours when they let us outside and he would tell me his tips on how I needed to get to 2 hours or 2.5 hours without stopping if I was getting serious about marathon training. And that was actually, it played a
Wow.
big role. It played a big role. And so I get out. I go to like Marshalls or TJ Maxx and get a pair of Brooks running sneakers off the clearance rack because that's that's what Runner's World said to do. And I show up at this
Hmm.
half marathon and um I show up at this half marathon and I run it and I have so much fun. Like I can't believe that I'm with all these cool people that are having fun running 13 miles. And
Hmm.
it's so as an adult that's looking for a new outlet and that's looking for something positive and who's looking for a new community, I couldn't have been infatuated isn't even a strong enough word. I like immediately knew this is what I wanted to do. I think I was 3 miles into the event and I'm like, I have to do this again. Like this is the coolest thing I've ever done. And when I finished the race, this young lady like showed me how to type my bib number into the laptop and get the printout for my time. And she gave me this high five and she was like, bro, you're awesome. You rocked it. Like, and immediately I'm like, and she said something like, I love your positive vibes. And I immediately, that's where my mantra of like high fives and positive vibes was born. And I just couldn't get enough of that feeling. And there's so many
Hmm.
layers to it. That exact day, one of the sheriffs that used to like literally put me in handcuffs and put me on the bus to go to court or to go to prison, he was there with his wife and his daughter. She had just completed the race and he recognized me from like a couple of years prior and he's like, I know
Wow.
you. He's like, I know you. He's like, you look awesome. He's like, you need to, whatever you're doing, you need to keep it up. He's like, most guys don't turn their life around like this. The fact that you're out here running a half marathon, when the last time I saw you, I was putting you in handcuffs and putting you on a bus. Like, so positive acknowledgement and encouragement and being recognized for something positive, it was all I needed. It was all I needed to fill that void that had been missing for so long. So I was like, let me do this again. So I immediately signed up for every half I could imagine, and just became fully immersed in the running community, doing dozens of half marathons. Eventually, my first marathon in Newport, Rhode Island, I think within 18 months, I had already done 6 marathons or 8 marathons, something crazy. And I had just, whatever, if I could afford it and I could travel there and I could get the time off of work, I made it happen. And I would just sign up and I would go and I would have fun. And then through being in the community, I was gifted a chance to take on a charity bib and got invited to my very first Boston Marathon in 2017, and that's how it all started. And I mean, we're 44 marathons in, so
That's unbelievable. 44 in, and you just completed the Boston Marathon this past Monday, which we'll talk
yes.
about. We'll talk a ton about that. But I loved, first of all, I loved everything about that story. So thank you so much for sharing. And
Oh, thanks for
as
listening.
you
Hopefully, I didn't get
know,
too far off track.
oh my God, no, are you
All right,
kidding? No,
good.
it's impossible to get off track on this podcast. We talk
I
about
like that.
anything you want to talk about.
Good.
I love getting off track. It's my favorite thing. But I am so inspired by you, of course, every day, and high fives and
Thank
positive
you.
vibes. I think me and so many others gravitate toward that because you just give off this positive presence and positive vibe and positive aura, whatever the right word is. It's true. And so you build that, and then on top of that, people call you Marathon Panda Maurice. So you've
Yes.
built high fives, positive vibes, and you've also built this identity of being the Marathon Panda, which people, I from my perspective on Instagram and what I know about you, people really connect with. So where did that come from, and what does it represent to you?
So, also love this question. We got to do a little bit of backtracking on a couple parts of the stories because
It's
I
all
know
good.
before we jumped on the record button, we talked about the first pair of sneakers. So that story did not include the first pair of sneakers. So don't forget to remind me to talk about that. But
Okay.
as a kid, my grandmother gave me a panda bear stuffed animal, and I was just obsessed with it. Something similar to that one in the background. And I was obsessed with it. I took it everywhere I went. I wanted to read about them in National Geographic. I wanted posters in my room as a kid growing up. And um, my Nana, okay, used to love tap me on the legs and say, "You're going to be a runner when you grow up with those strong legs." And she continued to say that when I was a teenager and I was riding bikes and riding. I wasn't good at the skateboard. I was riding bikes, no skateboards. So
Same.
yeah. But I never really knew what it went. I never really grasped it. Like I didn't run track in junior high or high school. I didn't really have the knowledge of like what that meant to be a runner. It just wasn't on my radar, is the best way to describe it. And then into my late 20s, still struggling with alcohol and substance abuse, we lost my grandmother, but she had planted that seed. So when I did start running, I immediately drew on the memory of my Nana as
Mhm.
inspiration. I was like, you're right, Nana, I am going to be a runner. And it's just, there's so many parts to this. The same ex that signed me up for the half marathon, it was her daughter that encouraged me to start an Instagram account. Being in and out of being a drug addict and in and out of programs and in and out of jail, I didn't have any consistency with smartphone use, with apps or anything. So Instagram, I was kind of late to the game. It was brand new to me, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? She's like, oh, you need to post, pictures and find people that like the same stuff as you, and you run and you should post about it, and you're sober and you should post about it. So she was super encouraging, and I did. I remember running like 6 miles with the weight vest, like, and to me that was like normal activity. I mean, this was, and I like took a selfie, and I'm like 6 miles done, weight vest, whatever. So there was like a couple of comments of like people, and I think I put like hashtag sober or something, sober runner or something, and there was like a couple of positive comments, or I found other pictures or other posts similar. So like I had immediately caught like the bug, like this. I was like, this is
Mhm.
cool. There's other people out there that are like doing the same thing as me. And I was immediately inspired, motivated, and encouraged and grasping onto that community because it was something that was missing for so long. Just like the in real life community, the online community, I was immediately met with positivity. And I was like, I'm the positive guy. I'm going to give this right back. And there's just, once again, there's so many layers to this. I was working a full-time corporate sales job at the time, brand new in my sobriety. And I used to actually, because I'm obsessed with cars and that's what I do for a profession is I'm in sales and advertising for a luxury car dealership. I used
I
to
love
call
it.
myself
Love to see it.
I used to call myself the Ferrari Panda, okay? Because I had Ferrari dreams. All my email passwords were like Ferrari dreams and stuff like silly stuff like that. So I called myself the Ferrari Panda. I think at one time my Instagram handle was Ferrari Panda Running, which was kind of long, but I thought it was cool. Okay, so I
That
thought it
is
was cool.
cool. That is
So
cool.
um, I'm at work one day, and one of my coworkers found out that I had just finished like I don't know, like a few marathons within so many months or whatever. And he was like, that's pretty awesome that like you're out there running marathons. Like you didn't just do it once, you're like continuing to do it. And he's like, have you ever thought about calling yourself the Marathon Panda instead of the Ferrari Panda? He's like, not to say you'll never have a Ferrari. Okay. So shout out to Emmanuel, the brand. Okay. Because he's the one who said this. He said, not to say you'll never have a Ferrari, but you're already running marathons. He's like, you need to like kind of claim that. And I was like, okay, Marathon Panda. I was like, that sounds way cooler. And I switched it. Okay. So now
I love that.
we got my grandmother as the inspiration. We got my new coworker that's like, bro, Marathon Panda sounds better than Ferrari Panda. And I was like, I agree. And then the way my brain was working, I was like, I need to put this on a shirt. I need to do this. I need to be the high fives and positive vibes guy. So it's been years, like literally over a decade since I was like getting custom shirts, like always thinking that this could be something. So to backtrack even further, when I was at some of my darkest moments of addiction, I had this dream of being a marathon runner that told his story of motivation around, the world, which I actually never left the country. So that's it. But at the time, I was a homeless drug addict with no driver's license. So it was a far stretch to think that I was going to be a marathon runner telling his story and being a motivational speaker. But that was my motivation. That was my motivation. I was like, if you want to get there and you're down here, what do you need to do? Okay. First of all, you need to stop using drugs and alcohol. You need to start taking the running serious, start taking your health serious, start taking. So I had like the brain was always working. I had always had this self-awareness to know that like the life I was living was really bad and the life that I wanted was attainable as long as I started making the right choices. So sorry I'm going back and forth, but that was I'm trying to paint the
No,
yeah,
do it.
I'm trying to paint the picture here. So that's how the Marathon Panda was born. I'm half black, I'm half white. I've always been a little chubby. So like it's like that you're not supposed to use the word spirit animal. I don't think it's like politically correct or whatever, but I use it. That's my spirit animal. I'm a panda, and now I'm the Marathon Panda.
I love that. I love hearing about all the layers because I think of course it's what makes you you, right? And I think one thing about you and your presence on social media and not in social media aside, right? Like your presence in the community and what you share with us on social media about your presence in the community, like I'm attached to it because I'm like, "Oh my god, there's finally somebody who is showing their true colors and where they came from and how they got here and the steps they took to get here." And I think that's really special. And it's, of course, I'll say it a million other times on this podcast. It's super inspiring for so many people. And I
Thank you
hope you know
so
that when you
much.
show up at races,
Yeah,
people see it. And I do. I don't. I saw you like 2 hours after the marathon even happened, and I like
I,
felt
I
just
was
your insane positive vibes.
I was so pumped to finally meet you in person. We've only been Instagram friends, so it's like
I
the
know.
real life meetup was real, and
It's crazy.
that's the coolest part about this community. So I'm 1 year into having an Instagram account, and I go to a marathon in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and after the race, another gentleman that finished the race. he was like, "Hey, aren't you?" And we like called each other by our Instagram handles. They like make memes about this now.
Yep.
And and he was like, "Hey, aren't you?" And I was like, "Aren't you?" And he was like, "Nice to meet you." And we are literally best friends. Like we became such good friends to this day. Like sleepovers before races, invited to family dinners and events. Like, so shout out to Running Chip and like it's just you meet so many awesome people. I could sit here and talk to you about my story for the next 72 hours and still want to keep going. But when I'm out there, I do actually shut up sometimes and listen to other people's story, and you meet so many cool people, and that's where all these mantras are born from. Like, we are the lucky ones, gratefully grinding, like, you know what I mean? Like, more love and all that stuff. It's so cool. This was the missing piece in my journey, was to be around like-minded people that are just trying to better themselves. Movement is medicine. All the cliche stuff that you read about and hear about, it's all real. I mean, you're out there kicking ass on the marathon course, and I mean, it takes a lot to show up and to make these things happen. And I love highlighting the positive parts of the community. I never want to sound ignorant that there is ignorance in this world and in this community, but why focus on that when myself, I'm someone who identifies as a person of color. I'm somebody that's come from different social economic backgrounds. There were times where like you look at somebody running a race and you have that must be nice attitude, because I don't know how I could afford to do something like that. And now I'm doing things through years of consistency and years of improvement. I'm doing things that I used to think would be like impossible. You know what I mean? To return to multiple Boston marathons, to travel to Chicago and run a world major marathon. It's like it's and it ties into everything that I stand for. I took away that must be nice attitude, not just with running and social media, but with the way I live my life. And I just worked harder and stayed grateful and stayed positive and knew it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the next day. It's probably not going to happen next month. But keep freaking doing it, and eventually it's going to happen. I mean, a good friend of mine, Amy, was overwhelmed with getting her master's, starting a new career, raising a family, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I think you're awesome. You're the guy that should do this. I have a bib for the 2017 Boston Marathon. I can't fundraise and I can't train. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is a dream come true." And that's how it started. And it built this constant belief. It just solidified the fact that like all I'm doing is showing up, being myself, doing what I love, and to have doors like that open. And it's just, I could go on forever about it. So I told you to remind me about the sneakers. If we go
Yeah.
back, all right, it's a
Let's
podcast,
go
so
back.
I'm not talking too much, right?
No, you're
Okay.
doing perfect. This is
Okay.
exactly why you're here.
Okay,
Just
so if
let
we
it
go
out.
back, if we go back to the program, I'm in this men's program and I couldn't leave the property for the first 90 days. Okay. So
Mhm.
my outdoor time was spent running in the parking lot. I mean, people did workouts and we had time dedicated to like chores and Bible studies and so forth. And it was a really cool program. We served the community. It was an active homeless shelter, and we served the community. So you learned a lot and you saw a lot, because I had gone from that side of the fence to this side of the fence. I decided to
Mhm.
change my life and I was over here now. And I just had this enormous like sense of raw gratitude, because I had already seen both sides. So I'm running every day in the parking lot. And obviously, I mean, I don't know if you can believe this or not, but I was talking to everybody and telling them about myself.
No
And
way.
no way. So,
I don't believe
uh,
it. Just kidding.
so one day, this woman that like ran one of the volunteer groups, she pulls me to the side and she was like, "Hey, Maurice, I hope this is okay. Do you have a few minutes?" And I'm like, "Of course I do." So she's like, makes me follow her to the trunk of her car, and she goes, "My husband's a retired, high school track coach. He's also sober. I told him about this, young man that's changing his life, staying sober. running every day, dreaming of running a marathon, and we just wanted to gift you with something. And she had given me a brand new pair of Asics running sneakers. And I just
Wow.
was blown away, like blown away, just because remember when I talked about like the half marathon and stuff and the positive acknowledgement? It was the
Mhm.
first time, it wasn't like the monetary value. It was the fact that someone was recognizing me for doing something positive, and it was the thoughtfulness. It was the like she went home and talked to her husband about me. All these things are spinning through my head, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is absolutely amazing. And I was running in like hand me down like somethings, right? Because I was in a men's program and they gave you, free clothes from the donation pile. Um,
Mhm.
so it was just like the definition of fuel for the fire. It was. So I put these sneakers on. I'm automatically running faster in the parking lot the next day.
Of
So that's
course.
the story. Of course,
I
so
love that.
yeah, I mean they were legit. They were like Asics gel Kayanos, like probably. I don't know what generation it was. We're going back to like 2008, but they were some sweet kicks. So
Damn,
I was,
she
I
hooked it
was,
up.
yeah. So I was wicked pumped, and that's the story of my first pair of sneakers. And then so when I do these, I've been super fortunate to have opportunities to do public speaking at a couple of
Mhm.
college classes, some high schools, some meetings and things like that. And I have a very good friend, Shamim. She's awesome, super like corporate rock star, college professor, like all this. We take yoga classes together, and she thinks that one of the coolest parts of my story is the fact that I was at a point where I was gifted a free pair of sneakers being in a men's program. And now I'm hooked up with like brands like Brooks, Marathon Sports,
Mhm.
Lululemon, and I'm the guy getting free products, getting free gear. Once again, for anybody listening, I am so guilty and guilty might not be the right word, but I used to be on the other side looking at this
Mhm.
stuff on social media like must be nice. I took away that perspective and used it as inspiration, as motivation. Every single day I use social media as a positive tool instead of getting caught up in the comparison and the negativity. And to this day, it blows my mind that somebody has time to leave a negative comment on somebody else's page.
I
It just
know.
it blows my mind because
I know.
if you don't like it, it takes just as much energy to keep scrolling as it does to double tap, and it takes
Yep.
more energy to type a negative comment. So I've just never bought into any of that. If you don't like something, unfollow it or don't follow, and don't leave anything negative. So I'm inspired and motivated
Agreed.
by so many people, whether it's by style, attitude, performance, like anything. So, and you see people with these big platforms and they're using them in a positive way. And that's what really fuels my fire to keep going. So I'm just wicked grateful to be able to do that.
I love that. I literally have like chills, and I was almost gonna cry on my pod like 3 times, 3 separate times as you were telling that story. What's so special about you, Maurice, is that it you've had, right, whether you were at your lowest lows or maybe your higher times and the low times, if that makes any sense. You had
It
these
does.
people that stuck out to you, right? You had, you know, your nana who was like, here's this panda, right? And then that became your identity. And then you had your ex-girlfriend who signed you up for the half marathon. Then you had your ex-girlfriend's daughter who was like, you should get an Instagram. And then you had, you were gifted the shoes. And I love watching you be that person for someone else. And it might not be in the same capacity, but to some degree you are that person for someone else, to your point, right? Whether it's through style, whether it's through just drive and inspiration, and they see you running the marathon in a suit, right? And they see you running the marathon for charity, which we'll talk about, of course. And it's just so special to hear like you say that and you be so humble about it, because I think you might not know it for everybody that's looking at your stuff on Instagram or everybody that you encounter at community events in Rhode Island or Boston or wherever you're doing events at, like that you are that person for somebody. And I think that's really special.
Oh, I love that perspective, and thank you very much for saying
No, of
that.
course.
Yeah,
Of course. I mean,
it's
listen, the first time I before we were on the runs together, I saw you on a on the Meet the Moment billboard in Boston. Like I'm like, ooh, I'm like,
That-
wait, I'm going to be on a podcast with him after the race, and I hadn't even known you yet. You know what I
That
mean?
was
And it's
super
like,
cool.
it
And
was so
it's and
cool.
the woman that I'm hugging is Beth, and she just got recognized for being a 30-year consecutive Boston Marathon finish line
It's
volunteer.
amazing.
And it's just amazing. I mean, it's amazing. So I had my very first to shout out Cycle Bar Providence because they gave me an opportunity when I needed it at a pivotal moment when I had lost my sales job and I just needed work, and they hired me to be on their team during the grand opening of a fitness studio, and I was once again immersed in the fitness community. And she saw the jacket one day and she was like, "Oh, you ran Boston." I'm like, "Oh, by the way, I ran Boston."
Yeah.
um, so you
I
asked, right?
love
I mean,
it.
that's why you wear the jacket, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
she was like, I'm doing it again next year, and it's going to be like, I forget at the time, I think it was like her 24th year in a row or 22nd year in a row. And I was like, really? And she goes, yeah, I'm the woman at the finish line that shows you where to go and get your medals and make sure you're okay crossing the finish line. And I'm like, that is so awesome. And I was blown away that she had been doing it for 20 plus years. And I'm like, and I'm making it work in my brain. I'm like, that means you're there from like this time to this time. Because what's one of the most special things about Boston is that the crowd is so fired up and they've been out
Hmm.
there all day. I mean, I'm a charity runner. I start late, I finish late, and that crowd is like the loudest it's been. And they've been out there for hours. Those volunteers, everybody, the staff, everybody, it's just so amazing. And in 2018, the year of the really bad weather, there were some people, and I'm not saying like the majority of the people, I'm just saying I noticed a lot of like not smiling faces. Okay. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad weather. And I get it. You
Yeah.
trained your butt off for months to get to this event, and everybody's different. I have to remind myself that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But I was going around like passing out the high fives, telling people to smile like it's race day. Like the freaking city is shut down for us. For us.
Hmm.
The whole entire city is shut down just for us. And I say it all the time. If I loved the Red Sox, they're not going to open up Fenway Park and let me play with the Red Sox because I'm just not that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not that good at running, but they let me run with all the cool people and they let me run with all the elites, and you know what I mean? So that's the perspective that I have. You get to run on, and one of the quotes that always sticks out to me is this young man Nick. He finished like top 40, might have even been top 30. I'm not sure, one year at the Boston Marathon. So super, super accomplished marathon runner. And I sent him a message on Instagram, like jokingly, like, you better watch out next year. You only beat me by 36,000 or whatever the math was, 26,800 runners. So I said, I'm coming for you. You know what I mean? You better watch
I
out.
love it.
And he was like, hey, bro, you ran the same race on the same day in the same weather, the same distance, and put out the same effort. Great job. I love your run streak. I love your stuff. Keep it up. And it just
That's
like
so
fired
awesome.
fired me up to the max. Like I was like, are you kidding? I was like, are you kidding me? Like that's the coolest way to look at it. And it was just hearing somebody else say it. Like I knew those things, but like to hear somebody else say like, you did the same thing, man. You're just as awesome. And I was like, that's right. So it fires me up to be the cheerleader. My favorite parts of races are like when there's like an out and back. So the people that are like way
Hmm.
faster than me are coming this
I
way,
could see
and I
them.
can just I
Yeah.
can yell and cheer at them. And I've had people come up to me after a race and be like, bro, we only had 3 miles left. I had nothing left. And you're yelling, go get it. You're yelling, awesome work, looking strong. Like whatever I
Yeah.
have, I'm like, go get it. Like you're awesome. And people come up to me and thank me, but it's reciprocal. Like I get I get fueled off of that too, because that's what I wanted. If I'm giving you a high five, if I'm saying awesome work, I want you to be fired up. That fires me up. I
Yeah.
mean, isn't everybody's pet peeve when you're out running and you wave at somebody and they don't wave back? I mean, I'm the
I
waver.
know.
I'm
I
like,
know.
hey.
I know, me too. I'm like, I cannot help myself. I'm always saying something. I'm
I'm
always
like,
waving. I'm always
yeah.
clapping.
Um, uh, so
It's
I fell in love with running at this local track when I told you the whole story about the men's program and running in the parking lot.
Hmm.
When they first let me out after the 90 days, I was like, I got to run to the track. I got to do laps at the track. So that was my thing. I had a set amount of time where I could leave the property and I would run to this track and do laps as much as I could. And there was this young lady there, and you could just tell she was a hard worker. Like she's doing pull ups, push ups, running laps, repeat, pull ups, push ups, running laps. I'm like, I think she's like an Olympian. The way this, I have no idea what she's training for, but she's super cool in my book. And I'm running laps every day, and I'd be like, I'd do the wave, nothing for weeks. And one day, we're both leaving at the same time, and she just gives me like a subtle, like, awesome workout there. You've been grinding for a while, or something like that. And
Yes.
I'm like, yes,
You're
yes,
like, I've
yes.
won. I
I was
won.
like, I made it. I was like, I made it. This,
It's so
so
good.
I was so fired up. Like I was fired up for weeks. I was like, yes, she said it.
Oh my God, that's awesome. And I'm sure like it was so difficult too. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Like, I think it's so easy for people when they're in the same spot in a program, right? Like you have a bunch of different personalities, right? Like you have you and this possible Olympian on the track working your asses off. And then I'm sure there are people that are not on the same path as you and they might not see success in themselves like right off the bat. And maybe they're working towards something at a different rate than you. I can't even imagine what it's like to like be with a bunch of different people like that. So it's really cool that you had that experience at the track, right? You're like, wait, this
Yeah.
one girl, like I just want her to acknowledge my presence and
Yeah.
acknowledge that I'm cheering for her and she should be cheering for you.
Yes.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. All right, so I'm backtracking now for a second.
Okay.
So you finish your first ever Boston Marathon. Do you remember at all like what you were thinking and feeling? I'm sure, of course, other than a huge sense of accomplishment, but do you remember what your feeling was on Boylston that day?
I do, because it's absolutely insane. So my first 2017 marathon experience. I mean, I was like, I'm still pumped up about the distance. I've done ultras. The marathon distance is just amazing. It will always be my favorite. I've said that before, and then I've never really retracted it. I've talked about ultras a lot, but the 26.2 is where my love for the game was born. And I think it's always going to be there. I mean, I used to get 26.2 shaved into my beard and get like colored
That's
braids that
awesome.
matched my race outfit. I mean, yeah, I thought that was cool. So it was cool. It
I mean, you are cool, so whatever works. I love it. When did the racing in the suit start?
So this was my fifth Boston in a suit. And I had done my first two Bostons for a small nonprofit called Technology for Autism, and I was introduced to the Rett syndrome community. With Rett syndrome is a rare neurological disorder, and my mentor friend, run coach Lori, she introduced me to the Rett syndrome community, and I immediately like had a place in my heart for these families that are facing these big challenges, because I run around town all the time talking about myself, talking about my story, how I overcame addiction, I overcame incarceration, being homeless. I could talk about it forever. But there are people out in this world, that don't have the physical, mental, and emotional capabilities to do what we do every day. Like work professionally, train, show up for
Mhm.
races, run long distance, and then the families that are affected by that. So all of this stuff that I talk about being grateful and we're the lucky ones, like I was like, this is something I need to do. Like I need to practice what I preach. Like if I'm Mr. Grateful and Mr. Positive and Mr. Care about the community, let me embrace this charity runner role. And Lori and I don't know if it was through text messaging or Instagram, she was like, we got to do something crazy for you to raise funds and awareness for Rhett this year. And I think she might have came up with the idea first, or it was like, we got to do something crazy. How about you run in a suit? And I was like, I love it. Let's do it. And I was supposed to get a purple suit. So immediately, so like I said, there's always these multiple layers. I had recently read an article in a GQ magazine that said you could run a marathon in this suit if you had to. So I immediately, of course, I read the article, and it was
Yeah.
promoting this. The company was actually local out of Boston, I believe, Ministry of Supply, and they did an athleisure type fit where the pants and the suit jacket have like that athleisure material, and they promoted it as like you can jump on and off the subway, you can go to your board meeting, you can go to dinner, and you'll still look fresh and smooth and stylish. So I went to their website, boom, boom, boom. I wanted a purple suit. I'm like, this suit is perfect. It wasn't inexpensive, but I'm a big believer in like paying for quality. And I was in a position where I could make it happen. I reached
Hmm.
out to them and told them I was running the Boston Marathon for charity and I'd love a suit and all this stuff. And they immediately replied. And they were like, unfortunately, we can't just give you one. But if you do this, if you buy one, and you run the marathon and you tag us on social, we'll gladly send you, X amount of dollars back as like a reimbursement. And it was
Oh, wow.
significant. It was significant. And I was like, this is awesome. A, that they replied, and B, that they were going to do this. So I ordered the suit. I bought the suit. It was supposed to be like a lavender purple, but it was like a light gray, super comfortable. And I wore a young boy's picture on my back that we had lost that year named Aiden. And
Wow.
his family was just so grateful that I did that. And I say it all the time, a day like that allows me to put the ego in my back pocket and realize that there's a big world out there. There's people going through really bad stuff, not just addiction related, which is always my number one topic for conversation. But there's a lot of people facing big challenges. And so the suit happened. It happened again the next year, again the next year. And then it became a symbol of like how far I've come in my journey. My favorite mantra is running the streets that used to run me.
Hmm.
When I started to let it soak in, to sink in, that the Boston Marathon runs through the same exact neighborhood and finishes on the same exact street where I used to sit around with alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. And we don't need to get into the hardcore details, but I call it the darkest corners of addiction that you can imagine. Those were the shenanigans that I was up to at the time. Nothing good. Okay.
Hmm.
And to be running those streets as a sober, grateful individual that's raising money for charity instead of trying to take from the community and take from, not literally take from people, but I mean, I was a guy that would probably ask you for $2 or for a cigarette or something. Do you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so to be able to give back and to be a beacon of light and hope and positivity and encouragement and inspiration and empowerment, that it's just such a gift and a blessing. So the suit is like a, hey, look at me, but it's like, hey, look what you can do. And you mentioned the
Hmm.
poster this year, which was just a surprise. I couldn't believe it. But 2 years ago, I was selected to be part of the official Bank of America photo campaign highlighting
That's
myself
right.
and the
That's right.
charity Heron Project at the time. And Heron Project is a great organization. And they, believe it or not, I spoke for a long time during the interview.
No
And that
way. I feel like I
what
had to say it because I've said it every time.
and what they grabbed out of my story was this guy makes change. Like he makes change happen with positivity one step at a time. And they put that on the banner. They put that on the poster, like positive changes one step at a time. And it was like I got goosebumps because I'm like, and I remember being at the photo shoot, and there's like 12 to 14 of us, and it was like super legit. They had like a wardrobe trailer. They
Oh,
had a
wow.
makeup person following me with like tissue and chapstick, and I'm like, hey, this is like wicked cool.
Oh, you got your chapstick.
Yeah, I got my chapstick, exactly. I was like, I'll take some of that. um, so I remember saying like I had on like shorts over tights, but they weren't the same color. And the woman was like, "No, that's not gonna
Yeah.
work. Let's change that." She loved my bandana. She's like, "You can keep the bandana. I love the look." It was like super official. And I remember saying something like, "Oh, I hope I make the cut." And the guy said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I hope my photos make the campaign." And he was like, "Oh, this is the cut. Like everybody here is already going to be featured." He's
Wow.
like, he's like, "You're going to be everywhere. You're going to be on subways. You're going to be on buildings." And I'm thinking to myself, "No way. Like, there's no way." Like, right? So a couple weeks go by, and I start getting these text messages from friends. They're like, "Bro, I'm on the subway and you are everywhere. Like you are everywhere." And one of the women that led the campaign, she sent me a picture. I think it was getting on 93, like leaving the city, and there's a
That's
billboard, and
crazy.
I'm on it, and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me!" So it was just like the most amazing experience, to be recognized for doing something that I love, and for people actually listening. Like, if I'm not impacting other people, then I'm just running around town yapping about myself. And when you talked earlier, I loved how you picked up on how like there's been these people in my life. um, I can remember the meetings in prison. I can remember the AA and the NA meetings. I can remember these events that I've gone to, and I would see a young man or a young woman that was just fired up about life, fired up about self improvement, whether it was addiction and recovery related or not, but they were fired up about helping others. And that's what I latched onto. I was like, I need to be that person. I need to be somebody that can show others like you can do whatever you want. You just have to get up and go get it. Like it's not gonna happen overnight. Like I know that sounds super cliche, but it's like
That's true.
if I can come from where I came from and get to where I'm at, and I'm still like, I love like you see me on Insta, I'm like, "Oh, we're just warming up, we're just warming up, we're just starting." Like I mean that like in my professional life, in my running life, like I want faster times, I want longer distances, I want more out of life. And it's like the whole like the hashtag chasing improvement and gratefully grinding and all that stuff is like to be able to live it, and to inspire others. It's the biggest gift ever. And the fact that I'm still sitting here, healthy, sober, clean, and able to talk to somebody awesome like yourself, well, you're letting me talk the whole time. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's a
I mean, I
gift.
love it.
It's a blessing. Yeah, it really is.
No, it's a gift that you're willing to share the story. I think a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for anybody in that situation, but I think a lot of people are afraid to share their story. And, it's, I'm sure it ebbs and flows, right? I'm sure there are times you don't want to talk about it. I'm sure there are times you really want to talk about it. And for you to be here and sharing is, I mean, I'm so grateful, and it's really special. And somebody could look at one of those, right? Like, I didn't know you at the time that the Bank of America, the official Bank of America photos came out, but I was running that year, and then we ended up on the podcast together, and I was like, oh
Right.
my goodness, I just saw him on a billboard, I just saw him on the subway, right? I just saw him on the highway. And but you don't know what you are for a complete stranger. And I just think that's something that's always not like purposely overlooked, but it can be overlooked, right? And I love that you recognize that in yourself too. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because if I'm not, I'll say it again, if I'm not helping others or inspiring others, I want people to know when they make that first decision to better themselves, it doesn't always have to be. My number one passion is talking about, the substance abuse and the alcoholism and stuff, but it could be anything. I had a friend reach out to me recently, and he remembers when I started my first corporate sales job as a sober adult. And obviously, I talked about being sober and all these goals that I had and how pumped up I was to have this job and happy Monday and happy Tuesday. And I thank them for drilling the positive attitude, as like the number one foundation piece to success, the PMA, positive mental attitude. But he said, listen, I've never faced addiction demons. I just haven't. It was never a struggle for me, but I had other demons and I had other struggles. And your positive attitude, your consistency, your your force of being relentless about like, we can do this, let's get it done. Like, we have to be happy, we have to be grateful. Like, there's no other way. He's like, it was contagious and it stuck with me, and I was able to overcome these personal demons. And it just like, it blew me away. We're talking probably 11 years ago, because it was at the very beginning of my sobriety. And he brought this up recently, and he's like, Maurice, you helped me through it, like, without even knowing. And that to me is super cool. I've had people reach out to me on Insta that's like, the way you talk so transparently about drug abuse has allowed me to like have a conversation with my son or my brother. Um,
Mhm.
because I can't not be transparent. There's no sugarcoating. Like, I wasn't like drinking beers and smoking joints. I was like a hardcore, I got into crack cocaine, crystal methamphetamine,
Mhm.
two unintentional overdoses that ended up with like the first responders bringing me back to life with Narcan. And I have like a special place in my heart for first responders, Providence and Seekonk, specifically because I always look at things from every perspective. And when I was in those super scary positions, I was met with respect and dignity and treated that way. Maybe it was because of the way I carried myself. Maybe it was because I never showed up and people get to know a little bit about me. But what I'm saying is like these professionals were like, "You're a good guy. Like you can do better. Like
Mhm.
don't think that like And I'll never forget. I had um, a pastor, Pastor Allen from Cranston. The thing he used to try to drill in everybody was, where you are right now is not where you have to stay, but you're the only one.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only
Yeah.
one that can change that position. And that just, it could not resonate with me more then or now, because that's how I lived my life when I was at those low points. And quickly, one of the biggest motivating factors to me, and it's just crazy because the way that my mind works, I would be in these really bad situations, whether it was a bad neighborhood, hanging out like, in next to an abandoned building with some suspect people doing suspect
Mhm.
things. I would look at people sitting in traffic on like a Friday afternoon, and I would be like, you're not there. Like, you didn't go to work today. You don't have a paycheck. You don't have a family or a house to go home to. You don't have anything to look forward to this weekend except for what you're doing right now, which is drugs and alcohol. And it was just like
Mhm.
whether I looked at it as like a smack of reality or like, it was so motivating for me. I was like, I want to be there. I want to be that person that's sitting in traffic on a Friday afternoon. As silly as it sounds, I was like, that's where I want to be. And I'll never get
Right.
there. I'll never get there if I don't stop what I'm doing right now. And I remember thinking that, like, it just I have to share that part of the story because it was like a lot of people asked like, what did it. I was just asked this question yesterday morning. Someone said, how did you stop? And I had drugs and alcohol on me the day that I quit, and I'm very fortunate that I was able to just leave it alone and leave it behind me.
I appreciate you sharing that because I know it's a different journey for everybody. And so was that the actual day that you quit when you saw the people sitting in traffic and you were sitting
Well,
there?
that
Or
had
was that just one of the
compounded.
biggest motivating?
Yeah, that had
No, go ahead.
compounded over time, but so what I just described, there was a moment where I had cash, cigarettes, drugs, paraphernalia, everything that a addict needs, and it's sad to talk like that, but it's true.
Mhm.
And I gave away the drugs and the paraphernalia, and I held on to the liquor and the cigarettes. And I said, I'm going to make it through this weekend without using drugs. And I'm going to wake up Monday and I'm going to go get a job. And the person that I was with couldn't believe it. They were like, what are you doing? I said, just take this. I'm done. And I walked away, and I was very fortunate. I knew there was somewhere where I could go where there wasn't going to be any drug use. So I was really fortunate. It's not always the case for some people, but I went there. I spent the weekend sleeping off my bad decisions. I did drink, I did smoke some cigarettes, but on Monday morning, I never touched a sip of alcohol again. Ne- Gave up the cigarettes. Like, it's
Wow.
just, I was ready. I was ready. And that final point, that day, it was March of 2015. I had already done the programs. When I talked about the programs and the free sneakers and everything, that was
Mm-hmm.
2008, 2009. I stayed clean and sober for 3 years. I had a relapse and got really bad. 2012 and 2013 were real bad years for me. And just to kind of, I really appreciate you letting me share all this.
God, of course.
One other thing, there was a time where I was running consistently and working full time. And I fell back. Had ran my first marathon. I talked about the Newport, Rhode Island Marathon. I had done dozens of
Mm-hmm.
halves. Um, and when I ran my first marathon and crossed that finish line, the natural adrenaline runner's high, whatever you want to call it, it was the most significant that I had ever experienced. That feeling of crossing the finish line. My mom was there, my aunt was there, some other special people in my life were there. And I was like, I'm never going to do drugs and alcohol again because I want this feeling. That was 2014. So unfortunately, later on that year, I did slip up. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I tried to do both. I was working full time, I was running in all my spare time, and I thought I could fit
Mm-hmm.
in the party drugs. I thought I could fit in the old Maurice. And it got to the point where I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked at the situations I was putting myself in, waking up on a Saturday or Sunday feeling like dirt. And I said, you can't be both. You can't be both.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose one. And I had this taste of, posting the post on Facebook and people saying, great job, congrats on your sobriety, congrats on the marathon. And in the community that I talked so highly about was over here, and the community that I was trying to leave was trying to pull me back. The streets, the street life, the
Mm-hmm.
wannabe drug hustler and drug user. And that's why I say it a million times a month. Running the streets that used to run me, I used to get pulled back in over and over again. I purposely go for runs through the same neighborhoods that I used to struggle with, not just the Boston Marathon, but even local here in Providence. I purposely go on these runs to remind myself how far I've come, that I'm not doing those things anymore, that I'm living a life that, chooses healthy habits over bad habits.
Wow. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Honestly, it's again
Mhm.
chills because it's just a testament to your resilience, Maurice, and you made it out of it once, and the streets that kind of tried to pulled you back in once, and I mean, look where you are now. Again, and I'll say it again, you are the shining light for so many people in this community, and I think it's and especially you going back to run the same streets, it's just, I mean, that's the biggest testament to your strength, in my opinion, at least,
Thank you.
because a lot of
Thank you.
people I'm sure can't do that. And not that it has to be a comparison, but you know what I mean
It
by that.
it took a long time. It took a long time, and the
Yeah.
people in recovery know. My first year in recovery, I wouldn't go to a social event that include drinking. You know what I mean? But I can be
Mhm.
around people that drink. I can go to a social event that includes drinking. I can go up and down those streets and see something like a liquor store or an old corner where I used to pick up drugs, and I'm not triggered. I'm triggered to the point where I can mentally and overcome it immediately and never have to make that
Mhm.
bad decision. But if I was 18 months clean, that might not be the case. But I'm so grounded in my new walk of sobriety and wellness that there's no going back.
I love that. That's it's amazing. It truly is such an amazing story, and I cannot thank you enough for sharing that. And it look
Thanks
really
for
it
having
brought
me.
you. Oh my God, of course. Well, okay, we have one last thing to talk about because I have
Yes.
to hear, and then I will let you go, I promise.
No, we can talk all
I
night. I'm wicked
have
pumped.
to. I mean, you know I could talk all night, as and I know you can too. I have to hear about how Boston went for you this year, and like we were talking about earlier in the pod, and maybe a little bit in the pre-show when weren't recording. It was so cool to just randomly bump into you on the street, like hours after the marathon. I think I was running, well, hobbling, I guess, to the T to try
Oh,
to make
so
it home after the longest day. But how was your marathon Monday?
It would have been better if I knew you were jumping on the subway to go to the recording because I walked 1.4 miles. No, I'm only kidding. But I
Damn.
Eric did suggest the subway. I was like, no, I can walk, but I just ran a marathon. I can walk
I
1.4
should have
miles.
walked.
Yeah,
I should have
no, it
walked.
wasn't a good decision. So last August, after a successful ultra marathon where I came up short of the goal but still had a great day, 80 something miles in a 24-hour event, was back to pain-free
It's
running.
incredible.
Thank
Incredible.
you. Was back to pain-free running. Got hit with some pain at my track workout. Long story short, went to physical therapy, went to a doctor. They were like, you have a stress fracture. And I was like, well, I have the Chicago Marathon in 8 weeks. And he was
Mhm.
like, you have a stress fracture. You're not running for 12 weeks. So I was like, you mean 7, right? And he's like, no, not 7, 12. So I was like, I think you mean 7 weeks. 7 weeks sounds like a good healing time. Um,
Yeah.
but so
Yeah.
I had sprained my ankle a few weeks prior, and my buddy Alex like got me back with the magic touch. I was back to running within 5 days, but I had to end my 9.5 year run streak that I used to talk about quite a bit.
I
Um,
miss that. I
so
miss
yeah, I
it.
know. So
But it's
um,
okay. You'll get back to
so
it.
I had to end the 9.5 year run streak. The community was amazing, supporting me and keeping me lifted up, and I still have my sobriety streak. So to stay on track here, I get back to running pain free, get hit with the stress fracture. I attempt the Chicago Marathon on a 75% healed stress fracture in the bottom of
Mm,
my foot. Everything went perfect until it didn't. So at mile 11, I
yeah.
banged up my foot. Boom, boom, boom. I had a very special friend waiting for me at mile 14 or 13. And when I got there, I mean, rewrapping, biofreeze, nothing
Yeah.
worked. The med tents, the guys were like, listen, bro, you're running on a stress fracture. You should probably stop. Like, we get it. You don't want to quit. And the ego in me is going, like, I'm in this med tent and somebody's dropping out of the race because, and I'm not trying to sound ignorant. It's never to offend anybody. I'm just speaking openly here.
No, of
Um,
course. Of course.
so I never mean to sound ignorant to anybody or offend anybody. But there was somebody in the med tent dropping out of the race because of like stomach cramps. And I'm like, I'm definitely not dropping out of the race. Like so it made me think like I don't belong in this med tent. Like I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I made it to the next like 4 miles, like to 15 and then eventually to 19. And the people in the med tent were like, you are in rough shape. So none of the Tylenol, none of the Motrin, none of the the biofreeze or the rewraps, nothing worked. I just felt like a failure. I felt like it was a really rough thing to accept the fact that I was going home without the medal and without the finish. Um,
Hmm.
my family, both of my awesome sons were there with me. My daughter-in-law was running her first Chicago. The sweepers of the course had started to come. I had missed the 6 hour cutoff. So reality was sinking in that I wasn't going to finish the race. Um,
Hmm.
so my sons were awesome, put me in a wheelchair and got me to the hotel and all that stuff and treated me like a VIP, even though I didn't finish the race.
Oh.
And my charity team, Organization of Autism Research, treated me like a VIP, even though I didn't finish the race. So anybody that's ever had to DNF, anybody that's ever faced an injury, you got to listen to this story. Um, when I got home to Rhode Island, the foot doctor said, you didn't just mess up your first fracture, you picked up a second fracture. The first fracture is pretty much okay, but you picked up a second one. No running for 3 months. So this time I really listened. I put the boot on, wore the boot for 2 months. There were some times where I was very discouraged. I turned to weight training and yoga, and I have a great community in both spaces, and everybody was super supportive. They know how much the running meant to me. I did it every day and yapped about it every day, so everybody knew how important it was. I never stopped believing in the back of my head that I would get back. And I did a post about this where the number one thing that kept me positive was I had friends reach out to me and be like, "Bro, you're still the Marathon Panda. Like
Yeah.
this you're still this individual that people look to for motivation and inspiration. We know you haven't ran in a month. We know you haven't ran in 2 months. It must stink. We know it must stink, but you're still the Marathon Panda." And that fired me up. and it allowed me to get through the winter. Thank God it was the winter, not the summer. It allowed
Yeah.
me to get through. It allowed me to get through the winter with the boot. With all that being said, my longest training runs were like 15 and 16 miles over the winter when I was cleared to run in February. Um, and they didn't go 100% smooth. I had a 19 miler 8 days before Boston that went very smooth in my book. So I went into Boston thinking this is going to be a slow and steady 5 hour day. With as minimal walking as possible. And you and I chatted before the show. I mean, my best Boston, I think, is 4:13 or 4:11, maybe. So it wasn't a course
It's
PR, but it
amazing.
was. I haven't run a Boston this well. I finished 2026 in 4:41, so high tens for pace, um,
Wow.
with super super low amounts of walking, and we talked about this earlier, between 18 and 22, which is like usually one of the most difficult spots for me, not because of the crowd and the energy, but because of me personally. I'm usually walking, starting to get discouraged, starting to doubt myself, letting some
Hmm.
negative thoughts enter. This year, none of that happened. Physically, I felt A plus. Mentally, I was doing amazing. I stopped for every high five, every selfie, every hype video. It was just incredible. And to be at that point of the race and still feel physically awesome, it was just such an energizer booster. I was just jogging, jogging, jogging. Every time I wanted to slow down, the crowd hyped me up. They were like, "This guy's wearing a suit." I was like, "Yep, that's me." And it's immediate fuel, and it jazzed me right up to get to the finish. So I'm very, very proud to have gotten to the finish line feeling awesome with much less amount of walking from the previous 2 years. It was my best Boston in the last few years. And then we got to go do the recording afterwards with Eric and On the
Hmm.
Runs. I met you in real life and not just virtually for the first time. We bumped
Crazy.
into each other. Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, one time in New York City, I bumped into a friend from Providence just randomly, like on a side street after when everybody's wearing the blue coats. And we were like, what are the chances? There's like 50,000 people
I
there.
know
We just
there's
we
so
just
many
bump
people.
into each other. So stuff like that is
Crazy.
always super special. And anybody, I got to say this and not to sound like corny because I mean it like with all my heart. Um, Anybody that's ever liked a post or left a comment or said something positive about me, it really, really does mean so much to me. Um, and when I see some of these other people with huge platforms and huge communities, and they take the time to just like a comment or reply to a comment, um, I have so much respect for that. And I try my absolute best to do the same. I'm not on that level, but sometimes it is a little overwhelming. Um, and you have to live your professional life and your personal life as well. And I never want people to look at it as like, this guy's a jerk. He doesn't, reply to comments. And I never want to be that guy because I'm so grateful for the community and so grateful for the love that I get. So it's a constant form of like self-improvement where I'm always trying to get better at. Yeah.
I love
There
that.
was a lot
I
to that
love it.
answer.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. And I don't think anybody could possibly look at you
Congratulations to
and say you're
you.
a jerk.
Okay. Congratulations to you.
No.
You ran an awesome Boston Marathon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was a good day. And similar, like you said, what we were talking about in the pre-show, 18 to 21, it flew by. It
It
just
flew by.
absolutely flew
It
by.
flew
I
by. I
was
was like,
taking in every high five. It was
yeah.
great.
I was like, wait,
I
you're
couldn't believe it
past
was
20.
over.
Yeah. I was like, Heartbreak Hill's over. Because I was thinking I was only at 20. And I was like, you already passed. Because I had a friend at 19 and a friend at 20. And I'm thinking I already saw both of them. So like, and I'm like, don't look at your watch, don't look at your watch. I looked at my watch, it was like at 22 and change. And to me, I'm like, oh, that's only a
Mhm.
5K left, even though it's a lot more than a 5K. But I tell my brain
Yeah,
that
but in
it's
your
only
head.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm tell my brain that's just a long 5K. Like pretend the 5K course is marked wrong and just run as hard as you can. And I wasn't like sprinting, but I was doing very well in the Marathon Pandas book. And it was just amazing. All the corny stuff that you read in here, trust the process, keep showing up. Like I turned to strength training, I turned to yoga, I turned to my community, it was tough scrolling through Strava and Instagram and seeing everybody running and finishing races but I mean in the grand scheme of things, I was only sidelined for a few months, so I kept reminding myself you can't call yourself Mr. Positive Panda and not be positive just because you're hurt for a few months. So I tapped into that. I tapped into that a lot and just said stay consistent with your mindset, stay consistent with your core values as far as positivity and gratitude, and you will run again. You will run again.
Hmm.
I mean, it was only 3 months, but it felt like a lot longer. But to anybody that's facing any type of physical setback or mental rut right now, just know that there's always light. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to get through it. Just keep believing in yourself. I did it.
I
I'm
could
back.
not
I'm
agree
back at
more.
running
You
marathons.
are. You're back. Maurice is back. The Marathon Panda is back. There's nothing I love to hear more than that. So with that being said, and as we wrap up here, what is next for you if you're willing to share? If you even have anything that's next, which is okay if you don't.
I definitely do.
I knew it.
Let's just call it Anchor Down Ultra in August,
Yes.
24-hour event. It will be my fifth year. Yeah, we might have to check the records. I think it's going to be my fifth year running the 24-hour distance. I have not obtained the elusive 24-hour 100-mile buckle yet. I've had a 90-mile day, 80, 84, 85, or something in the next few years. So super solid, but you don't study for 6 months to get an 80, you study to get 100. I have two 100-mile buckles to my name, but they both took over 28 hours to achieve. So the goal is to get a buckle this year in Anchor Down, Bristol, Rhode Island, August. 24-hour race, 2.5-mile loop over and over again because we're super crazy. I love it. And then I'm going back to Chicago for Redemption. My charity invited me back, so I DNF'd. It's the one and only marathon that I've DNF'd, so I got to go back and get redemption. I'll train really hard to maybe get a PR, which is like a 3, because I know numbers are important in the running game. So there's no pace shaming. I'm a big, all paces are welcome.
Yep.
Nobody's ever made
Of
me feel
course.
silly because I'm not fast. So I think I got to run a 340 or a 339 or
It's
340
amazing.
to or 342. 342 will be a PR because my current PR is 343. So I got to run a 342 in Chicago, but we'll be shooting for a 339. I got plenty of time to get there. We got to get the buckle in August 1st. And you never know. I mean, anybody that follows my page close enough knows it wouldn't be a Marathon Panda show if there wasn't a surprise between now and August. So there's
Yeah.
obviously going to be a surprise between now and
Yep.
August because we're not
Yep.
waiting for August to do something big.
That's all right.
We'll leave it at
I
that.
love that. I love that. That's a perfect note to end on. Maurice, this has been the best, most powerful conversation I think I've had on the pod. So thank you so much for being so open and for sharing your story with all of us. I know I'm leaving more inspired by you than I already was, so that's a win. um, but if you want to let people know where they can find you on Instagram if they don't already follow you, feel free. And
Marathon
yeah,
Panda
thanks again.
Maurice on IG
That's right.
and first and
You
last
already
name on
heard it.
Facebook. Yeah, you've already heard it. Marathon Panda Maurice. Running the
You've
streets
already
that
heard
used to
it.
run me. High fives and positive
That's
vibes.
right.
All of them. All the mantras. If you missed any of the mantras, just stay tuned. You get a happy Monday mantra, a happy Tuesday mantra, a happy Wednesday mantra. There's one for every day of the week. So today's Thankful Thursday. If you waited for today to give thanks, you're doing it all wrong. Positivity plus gratitude equals momentum. That's the name of the song. It's so long when everybody tells me to shorten it, but I never listen.
No, no, no. You don't need to shorten it. It's perfect. It's so perfect. Maurice, you are the best. I hope you'll come back on when you hit your PR in Chicago because we like to manifest on this podcast, and that's what I'm manifesting for you.
That's what we're
So
doing. That's what we're doing. Thank you
that's what
so
we're
much for having
doing.
me and letting me
Of
share so much.
course.
I wicked appreciate it. You're awesome. And you're one of those
Of
people that
course.
inspire with style and performance. So I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you.
You're
If
always
I can
swagged out.
inspire with style,
You are. You're
dude,
always swagged out.
I, it's so ridiculous, but you know what? To your point and to the point of this, like, if you're not having fun with it, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Like, you
exactly. I
gotta have
feel like
an
that's the
ounce of it
stuff you
has to be
tap
fun.
into. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You
Look
got
good,
to tap
feel
into the
good.
fun.
Look good,
That's
feel good,
right.
smell
So
better.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Oh my God. I'm going to have that be my like next tattoo.
You should. Definitely.
You are the best. I will be seeing you again on the pod. I know I will, but I appreciate you being here. And yeah, thanks again.
All right. Love, peace, and hair grease. Thank you so much.
That's so good. All right, Ali G Show fam, that is a wrap on today's track. Big thank you to Maurice for sharing his story and to all of you for being here and listening. It means more to me than you know. If this episode stuck with you, take that energy into your next run, walk, or workout. Don't forget to subscribe and share the pod with someone who might need this one today. You can find me on Instagram at @the_Ali G Show for more updates and behind the scenes moments. And you can find Maurice on Instagram at Marathon Panda Maurice. I will link everything for you guys below. And as always, keep moving with purpose. Trust the process, and remember, you are never running alone. I will catch you all on the next track of the Ali G Show. Bye.